Are you sick and tired of gambling your hard-earned money on Madden packs? Look no further than my sponsor, MMOEXP, for the cheapest and most reliable MUT coins on the market. And don't forget to use code Ferdy at checkout for 5% off. What's going on, guys? Today, we are updating the cornerback tier list. This video, the last update was probably like a month and 10 days ago, somewhere around that time. So we're just going to talk about the top tier names in today's video. Basically all the S tier guys. We have the A tier finished, B tier finished, C tier, all that good stuff. By the way, this is the fully upgraded team captain, Rondé Barber, and there are some other new names like L'Jarius Sneed or Patrick Peterson, or even that's probably all the new names on here. Maybe there's someone in here somewhere. I know there is. Josh Norman's newer, Paulson Adebo's newer, AJ Terrell is newer. There are some newer names on here. Behind me is the Genki Force kind of Tanaka card, that made up card, and some other names back here as well. So that is the tier list we're going to start with. And like I said in today's video, I normally don't do this, but we're just going to talk about all the top tier names because over the last month we've really only got top tier names at cornerback, and there's a lot of depth regardless if you're playing man or zone, and obviously that's kind of a big factor in where you would rank these cards. If you play man or zone, I try to make it pretty even and just kind of try to strip away the abilities of a lot of these cards and just kind of narrow it down to how they play. And if you play man or play zone, I'll mention what the card's good at when we talk about them. But yeah, let's just get started with the first name in today's video, and that is Taron Johnson. Before we do get started though, if you are part of the 54% of people who watch the videos and are not subscribed, let's change that right now. Head down there to the subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and yes, let's just get started. Okay, first name we got is Taron Johnson. Taron Johnson, 96 speed, 95 acceleration, can play man, can play zone, good pursuit, obviously not the best tackling stats, and for the abilities, this is going to be a zone guy. He's your zone option. If you are playing man, obviously the card's got good enough stats to back it up. The only problem with this card is with him being a little bit undersized, pick artist doesn't do much. I've been using this card on my Jets theme team. I run a lot of man-to-man, so I do still have Taron Johnson because of his stats, but pick artist really doesn't do much because he's a little bit on the smaller side, and a lot of people are accustomed to throwing high balls and things like that. So with the smaller guys, you really got to rely on KOs. So if you are a zone guy, he's actually pretty good because he does get deep out zone, which is very good for your corners that kind of drop up the sideline, and then does get flat zone or mid zone if you put him in curl flats or even put him in hook curls. So a pretty good amount of KOs on Taron Johnson for cheap as well. 2 AP, pick artist, he can't run 2, but again, he's small, so I mean 5'11", yeah, okay, but he's on the smaller side, so you kind of gonna have to rely on the KO. So if you are a zone guy, he does get good zone KO abilities, and it's not a big deal that you also can't get pick artist because again, pick artist just doesn't do much. So I'm gonna put Taron Johnson with a 96 speed in a pretty good amount of theme teams, all of the AFC East squads. In front of Randy Moss at S tier, it was kind of a in between, but with the KOs, he plays fine, moves fine. He's always there. He's always in coverage. He hasn't gotten beat bad for me, anything like that. The only problem is again the size, and in man-to-man coverage, he's not the greatest option. And next up, we got Antonio Cromartie, 6'2", 96 speed, 95 acceleration, good man. Decent zone, like over 90, you should be okay. And if you are playing zone, you most likely have the zone boosting strat cards, good pursuit. He does remind me a little bit of like just a taller Taron Johnson, really, because he has similar pursuit, low tackling stats. But if you go to the abilities, he does get a nice mix of zone and man abilities. He's more for man-to-man guys because he does get short route KO and deep route, which is really, really nice. I use short route on the card and he plays great. But even mid zone, I feel like mid zone is probably the third most popular zone KO for corners because more people are putting them in double Mabels and things like that. But mid zone is okay. I think he's definitely more of a man-to-man corner, but because of the build and the speed and still has some decent versatility, I would put him at S tier. And again, this card has played very well for me. But again, I have him on a Jets team. But really, you know, you kind of got to have a theme team at this point, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this have a Super Bowl theme team, and there's obviously going to be a lot of Super Bowl options up here at cornerback. And next up, we got Jaire Alexander, 97 speed with 96 acceleration at 5'10", and of course, when I'm ranking these cards, I'm ranking them on their fullest potential. So this is him fully, I want to talk about this card fully elevated, which is obviously going to be very, very good because you get all the Genki Force abilities, which those ability stacks are the best in the game right now, in my opinion, if you're willing to fully elevate the card. It's not as expensive as it once was because now you can get away with running a 93 in that first slot. Now, if you have the upgrade token, you could use it, and then all you gotta do is put one champion in order to fully upgrade. But for the abilities, X factors, he does get shutdown as well as universal coverage. Universal coverage is good in man and zone for those KOs, and with him being an undersized guy, This is obviously very good because you want to have those good KOs. So I do like universal coverage on this card. Very, very good. It's almost broken, you could say. But then for the abilities, he gets a pretty good versatility, a pretty versatile amount, a pretty versatile, what's the plethora? No, that's the right word. A plethora of versatile abilities. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to use big words. I don't know why my brain's taking me there. But man and zone. So that's what I was trying to say. You can play man, can play zone. Short route for one. Pick artist. Again, I don't care about pick artists on these smaller guys. But I wish his last ability slot had a deep out zone KO. The only problem with this card is no deep out zone, but he does get out. He does get universal coverage, which is very good. So if I were playing zone, I would probably go universal, flat zone, and then you don't gotta run anything else really. You can save your AP and just run them for 1 AP. If you're playing man, I would probably go short route. You could go outside shade, but for 2, it's kind of expensive. Probably short route. I probably wouldn't even go acrobats, maybe what you want to run, but of course, out my way, you could run 2, which is good against the run. But I think this guy's probably better as a slot guy, even if you're playing man-to-man with him, because he doesn't get those deep routes or deep out. So I'm going to be strictly like a slot guy, but the universal coverage is definitely nice on this card. And I would put him at cornerback number 1 that we've seen so far. Will he finish in the top 5? No, probably not. But pretty good abilities. I wish there was just more 0 AP abilities like some of the Genki Force cards do get, especially like in like the KO category, which would have made this card even more broken. Because pick artist again doesn't do much on these smaller corners, especially when you have these 6'3" plus unicorns running around Ultimate Team. I know Mike Irvin 6'2", but like Mike Irvin, Calvin Johnson, Plesko Burris. You see, I'm thinking even Kyle Pitts. You kind of see those guys all the time. So yeah, Jaire Alexander a little bit lower for that reason, but still a very good card if used and schemed correct. And next up, we got Joshua Williams. So Joshua Williams, again, he can be upgraded up to 96 speed using the lighted up token. So yeah, 96 speed is how we're going to consider this card. He's more of a man-to-man guy. You can see that right now. If you're playing zone, you don't really care about this card too much. But one thing I will say, if you are a zone guy with a Super Bowl theme team, the 0 AP pick artist is still very, very good. And it does also get 1 step ahead, lighted up, which is great for the man-to-man users in this game. I love the 1 step ahead ability for just 1, and it's on the whole game is really, really good. So more of a man-to-man guy, but even can fit in zone because he is 6'3". So pick artist does actually like work, and you notice it out there. Only problem is no deep KOs, so he's probably like your 4th option or kind of slot option at cornerback if you are playing zone, and also no zone abilities hurt too. But on a Super Bowl team, 99 speed at 6'3" with free pick artist, that's obviously amazing. So yeah, sign me up. So Josh Williams, I am gonna put him in front of Jaire Alexander just because pick artist is really good, and he's 6'3" and has 96 speed. So I'll make that trade-off. But again, if you don't have a Super Bowl theme team and you want to have those zone KOs, you would obviously value Jaire over Josh Williams. But again, when it comes down to things like that, I try to strip down all the abilities and look at how the cards play. And I would rather have a guy with 1 less speed that's 6'3" compared to a guy with 1 more speed who's 5'10". That's what I kind of come back to, because again, your rankings might look different depending on man and zone. For this ranking, I try to consider both things when it came to ranking these players. And now here's a card I really do like. That's Pat Surtain. 6'2", 96 speed, 97 man with good zone coverage as well. And of course, with him being a Nike card, he does get 99 press 2, which is very good. And of course, he's pretty versatile. I would say he might be the best slot corner in the game, with him getting free flat zone and free pick artist. No special KOs, but being able to get a KO for free and pick artist on a 6'2" guy that can do both things is honestly really, really good. So Pat Surtain, there isn't much of an explanation here. I think he's just probably the best slot corner in the game right now. I do wish his tackling stats were a little bit better, being so close to the line of scrimmage and things like that. I would like having the tackling near there, but still, with his size and his coverage and how his cards play with the 2 free zone abilities, Pat Surtain is probably number 1 right now you've seen so far. Yeah, just because the build and the KOs and the 2 0 APs is really, really good on Pat Surtain. And next up, we got Shadow Variant Devonte Adams. 96 speed at 6'1", can play man, can play zone. And although his pursuit isn't high, he also does get like a good tackling stat as well as a good block shed. And this card's unique because they give him good like hit power ability, like X factors. Like Avalanche is good kind of off the edge. I would probably use Shutdown, but again, Shutdown is more of a I mean, it can work in zone, but it's just probably better in man. It's something I've definitely noticed. Like Zone Hawk's probably better for zone, obviously, or Universal's better in zone, but Shutdowns, I feel like it just works better in man-to-man. But with him being Genki Force, he does get some pretty good abilities. like mid zone or medium route or flat zone or pick artist. With him being 6'1", it does actually play. And even inside shade's nice, or bench press, you don't need to run it, but pretty solid. So I would probably put, this one's tough, but I think Devonte Adams, with the versatility of the card, right? Like him and Surtain are just tough. They're pretty similar in a way, but again, you could really argue that, I guess in man, I would rather Devonte, because Devonte's able to get medium route and pick artist, and if you want to like spend a little bit more inside shade, or even like the X factor, I think the X factor is what kind of puts Devonte over Surtain for me. Although there is a 1-inch height difference, just the versatility of the different abilities, the ability to fit in better in more schemes. I would probably play him more on the inside, just like Surtain, because again, shutdown is good. Like, we look at the space shutdown thing here. Coverage is tighter, interceptions are more frequent on contested catches. So I feel like there's like a kind of a placebo KO built in, but it's not like universal where there is knockouts. Like, it doesn't say that. So Devonte, it's good. It's just like, it's so tough to rank these cards because they're so good. But I would probably take Devonte over Surtain. I probably would. It's tough to say, but yeah, I probably would. Next up is Charvarius Ward, or Charvarius Ward. I think I said it wrong the first time. Either way, again, fully upgraded. He can get up in 96 speed, so we're going to consider him like that. That's very, very good for a 6'1" guy with high man, high zone, and even good tackling stats for kind of like a base card, which is kind of unique, I guess. But again, abilities, bottleneck, mid zone, and pick artist. I don't really think lighting him up is that crazy, because I like lighting it up for the X factors, because to me it's stats over abilities. Or abilities over stats, my bad, I mixed those up. Pretty big mix up there. But deep zone for 2 is good, and then pick artist for 0 as well. As a Super Bowl team, you should definitely have this card, whether you play man or zone, because he has really good man coverage, and then pick artist for free or inside shades, also very nice. So you're running zone, go deep zone. For running man, go inside shade. But Super Bowl teams definitely need to have Charvarius Ward, and I do think he is better than Devonte Adams. And next up, we got Herb Adderley. Again, a card that can be fully upgraded, 97 speed. That's how we're going to consider this card. I think this card really does play really, really good for kind of these base Super Bowl cards. I think he's probably the best. Even over maybe not over the LTDs, but I love his tackling ability. I think something that definitely goes overlooked on corners, because you'd rather have their coverage stats, but if they have both, you might as well go for it. So give me more of a man-to-man, zone guy, flat zone with deep zone, and then pick artist, and his build's good too. He is 6'1", so you are going to definitely utilize that pick artist. So pick artist, deep zone, I think is probably a good setup on this card. Not to mention, he also does get the X factors like shutdown or zone hawk, which is very, very zone hawk, tighter coverage when in zone and things like that. So just having that with the hit power, I think does put Herb at number 1 on our list so far today. And again, if you have a Super Bowl team, you got to get your hands on this card, because regardless of man or zone, like, she does get shut down, right? So, which is good for man, and then flat zone is good for free and things like that. So, he's pretty versatile. And I also try to consider versatility in any of these rankings. It's not as big of a thing, but Herb Adderley, he's played great. He's annoying to face because of his run stopping ability. Be able to like shed receivers with low run block and impact block is just frustrating. So Herb Adderley does bring kind of a different element, because he's able to stop the run very, very well. Next up, we got Night Train Lane at 6'1", 194, which is a pretty nice build for a corner. And again, very good run stopping stats. His tackling's low, but good hit power, good pursuit, good block shed, good impact block. Even if he's not making the tackle, he's still going to slow down the ball carrier, because he's able to get off blocks against, again, low receivers, or receivers with low run block and impact block and things like that. Can play man, can play zone, and he's pretty versatile. Does get one step from the vault, and does get deep zone KO from the vault and bottleneck. So a good mix of man and zone abilities. He does actually get deep out zone KO built in. Not built in, but you can put it on him. Also, pick artist will work on the card. Deep route if you're playing man, or medium route, or whatever you run, or whether you're running man and zone, you're kind of mixing it up. It's good, because you're able to put unstoppable deep KO, but then, or even one step ahead with deep out zone KO, or unstoppable deep KO with a man ability, which is very, very good. So Night Train Lane, I think he's better than Herb, just because of the X factors, and again, that versatility gives him kind of that edge. But on a Super Bowl team, you got to go Herb over Night Train, and also Night Train does come with a bit of a price tag at 1.5, 1.6 mil. And I know people aren't going to like who I got at number 1, but it is Mel Blount. I think, again, I'm stripping down all the abilities, and like these stats, they're tough to beat at 6'3", 205. They're just too good. And the hip, like, I've noticed that the run's really good. The tackling stats are like somewhat there for a corner. I had him on a Steelers team for a little bit, which is only a 1-speed difference than what you can get on the card if you don't have a theme team. If you have a Super Bowl team, the only downfall with this card is he doesn't get any zone abilities, and that is a slight problem. If you are willing to light him up, he can get deep route KO, but like, again, no zone abilities whatsoever. It's just, that's the only problem with this card. That's like the only issue, but he's definitely the best corner I've used so far this year. If you are playing man-to-man, he's your guy by far. Like, he's a must-have if you're a man-to-man guy, because of his stats and his build and his tackling and his abilities. Like, it's all there for him. But again, if you're playing zone, he might be much lower. Like, he can be here if you're playing zone, and that's the crazy thing about these cards and the abilities. But again, just kind of stripped down, he's the best. He's the best pound for pound corner in the game, but abilities play a big part. So if you're playing man, he's the best corner undisputed in the game right now. But if you're playing zone, a guy like Night Train would probably make more sense for you, or Herb, or Charvarius Ward. Or the Super Bowl team, you're probably going to go Night Train, Herb, Ward, and Josh Williams. But there's also these guys with really good ability stacks like Jaire and Surtain, and even Devonte being ganky. Like, there are so many options right now in this game. I think people are going to comment about Mel Blount being number 1, but again, the way I looked at this ranking, like, it's different than it is kind of later in the year, because we have options now, and you really like kind of tailor and pick up cards based on your scheme and things like that. So just keep that in mind. If you're playing zone, Mel's not your number 1. If you're playing man, he's definitely like by far the number 1. If you strip down to the cards from the abilities, Mel's still number 1. So I don't know if my reasoning's really making sense, but that's kind of my reasoning. That's what I got for you guys. So my top 5 corners: Mel at 1, Night Train at 2, Herb at 3, Charvarius at 4, and then Devonte / Surtain at number 5, depending on what you need the cards for and things like that. I would kind of lean Devonte just because of the versatility of the abilities, but in the X factors, that's my opinion. So that's my top 5. Drop a comment down below. Who's too high, who's too low? Let me know. Of course, as always, I will see you boys in the next one.